What's up, everyone? This is DyanaRozay. Welcome to my channel. If you guys can hear me in the chat, please let me know what city and state you're coming from. I see we got 29 of you watching, which is wonderful, but there's 50 likes so far, so that's good too. So people may be jumping from channel to channel, but if you guys can hear me, just let me know so we can get started, okay? Hey there, Miss Tasha Rains. I appreciate you coming in to moderate. I see Carmel Fox is in the building. MN is moderating as well. Thank you so much. Okay, I see LaWanda from Tallulah, Louisiana, Fort Pierce, Florida. Let's see, we got Omaha in the house. Hey, everybody, thank you so much. All right, the numbers are going up. I see 70 of you are in the chat. New York, Miss Anna, Frisco, Texas, Atlanta, Georgia. Hi and welcome. Go ahead and hit that like button when you come in. I see Wisconsin, Minnesota, Florida, Dallas, Texas. Great. Thank you, guys. So we are about to get started. I told you that I was going to have 7 guests. Right now, it looks like we have 5 who are available to us, but we may have more come in as they if they show up, we'll add them to the panel. If you guys have questions that you would like to ask, then go ahead and put it in the chat. And I'll just, I'll look over there and see if I can bring you on, or not bring you on, excuse me. We're not going to have anyone come up to the panel, but I will ask questions as we go. And that's pretty much it. Thank you guys for coming in, okay? I see Houston, Texas, Georgia. Okay, perfect. Let's see. Dr. Mike, is that you? Okay, here's the panel. We got our panel on. I'm going to have everyone introduce themselves, and then I'm also, you can all see their credentials there, their names there, one at a time, starting with Dr. Raphael Crawford. Dr. Crawford, you are still muted. You're still muted.
Sorry about that. Raphael Crawford. I reside in Nashville, Tennessee, America's City, as we call it. And happy to be here. I've done some work with the good Dr. Brother Robinson in the past, and looking forward to collaborating with you and the other doctors on the panel. I am an educator, retired school principal and middle school coordinator. I work as an educational consultant, and also I'm teaching part-time at a university.
Okay, awesome. And I asked this of you before, but you could let us know if you're married or single, if you have children.
I am single. I am childless. Being an educator at a very young age was the best birth control I could have ever had.
Awesome. Okay, so we're going to go from Dr. Crawford. You can mute your mic, and then we'll go to Dr. Kyle Bacon.
Good evening, everybody. Dr. Bacon, glad to be on the call. Good evening to everybody. Educator for the last 20 years within the DC, Maryland, Virginia area, and excited to be a part of the conversation this evening.
Okay, and then I also like to ask you if you are married, single, have children. Does your wife watch the show? Do you watch any shows?
Married. Wife doesn't really watch a lot of reality TV. I watch a little bit here and there, but not a lot.
Okay. All right. And then we are going to go to Dr. Henry M. Carter. Okay, Mike.
Greetings, everyone. Of course, I'm Dr. Carter. I am my history is a nonprofit executive, also a college administrator. I'm an entrepreneur, own businesses, an author. I am married. I have watched a reality show, TV, and I'm excited to be on this panel.
Awesome. Awesome. Okay. I'll have you mic back up, and then we'll go to Dr. Gabriel Warren.
Hello, everyone. I'm Gabriel Warren, and I am a college administrator, an author, and a speaker. And I have been married for 18 years, and I have 2 boys, one teenager and one middle school age. So happy to be here and glad to be a part of the panel.
Thank you for coming on. And then right now, our last one is Dr. Mike Robinson. How are you, sir?
Blessed and highly favored and honored to be here, Diana.
Great. So tell us what you know. Married, children, you watch the shows, any of them?
I want to begin by saying, bless you, Dr. Warren, teenager and middle schooler. And you hear it? Yeah, that's good. Yeah, I watched the show. I've been watching reality TV for quite a bit. My wife is a big fan of reality TV. I have two daughters, one who's a senior. She's graduating this year. And I've been married for 34 years. I know my better half for 38.
Awesome. Awesome. Okay, guys, let's get cracking, okay? So first I want to start with, I asked that we talk about how Black men present on reality TV, and I wanted to talk to a panel of Black men about it, okay? But first, I actually wanted to give some examples of some of the things that I've seen throughout the years just across the board on television. I want to talk specifically about the men on white television or mainstream reality TV shows, and that is because sometimes we just focus on us, but problematic men, misogynistic men, they've been, it's been a problem for a long time. I hope I'm not offending anyone on the panel in saying that. I share with you guys that most of the people who watch reality TV, it's usually women. So just getting opinions from you guys, what y'all think about what's going on is always important. But the Kardashians, which is a really popular show, there has been a problematic male on there for as long as the show's been on. And his name is Scott Disick. He has been known to have substance abuse problems, alcohol issues, abuse problems. He's threatened to harm himself, unalive himself. He's been in and out of rehab. He had 3 children out of wedlock. What else did this man do? He called the matriarch of the show the B word in front of everybody. He tried to shove money in a man's mouth because he wouldn't give him anything to drink, more alcohol. And he has had an opportunity to stay on his show. No one's ever protested or said this person is a problem, he needs to be off. I think the Obamas had made the comment their daughters weren't allowed to watch that show because it is a problem. And it was like the shot heard around the world. I don't know if y'all remember how angry people got that the Obamas said that we don't let them watch the show, which no one should. But I just thought it was interesting how that happened. But he's had an opportunity to be on that show. I think he's still on the show, to be honest, for maybe 12, 13, 14 years. He's had 2 spinoffs. And I don't think he's any different now from when he started. He might have had just a little bit of a redeeming moment, but not much. So I wanted to start there because we've seen some behaviors with Black men who come on to reality TV. They kind of act out some of the things we've seen on other shows. And we get upset about it because it's not what we know. It's like, what is this? Who are these people? So that was one show. I want to give you another example. There was a show, I think it's Real Housewives of Beverly Hills. The characters' names are Taylor and Russell Kennedy, who appeared to be a problem from the start of the show. As soon as they came on, we got to see this couple who I think everybody watching could tell had a problem, but we didn't know what that problem was. Later, it's revealed by another castmate that Russell is hitting his wife. And then, I don't even know, maybe a year after that, he unalives himself. That was a storyline. It stayed on the show. I mean, that show still thrives today. Like, I'm pretty sure they're filming. Another show that was crazy. This is a show that I watched, and I actually stopped watching after this particular episode. But Real Housewives of New Jersey, they had characters that you may have heard of because they actually went to prison. Teresa and her husband, Joe Goodice. They ended up getting into some sort of family brawl. They got into a fight at a child's christening, a baby's christening. There was chairs thrown, tables flipped over. I believe there was an elderly man that was the father, actually. He ended up leaving this event in an ambulance because they thought he had a heart attack. A few years later, Joe and Teresa both go to prison for bad business dealings or practices. And what happened after that? Joe gets deported to Italy because he did a crime. Teresa gets to stay on the show, and she marries another millionaire, and everything's good, and that's their redemption story. Now, Black reality TV, we don't always get to see the thing with the white reality TV shows is we get a mix of good and bad, but we don't always get to see the good with the Black men on the shows. Sometimes it's just a big concentration of all bad. Do you believe that, or do you think that's not true, Dr. Henry?
Well, we have to look at what the motive is. They always say, what is the motive? What is the motive? There is a concerted effort to weaponize Black men. Okay. There is an effort to control this narrative that Black men are toxic and they are not valuable enough to be considered a serious suitor for a husband, for a father. Is because there are some people who, and Dr. Robinson should have warned you all. I am out of the box. My thinking is that at the very root of this narrative is the fear of the loss of white supremacy. Now I'm going to tell you where I'm going at with this.
Okay.
There are some people who are extremely threatened by a strong Black male figure, because a strong Black male figure who is the traditional head of his household creates a stable family. Okay. And there are some people who do not want a stable Black family. And so to dismantle this family, I have to dismantle the strong Black male figure. And we've seen this on reality shows with the toxic Black male or the Black male who might have accepted a more alternative lifestyle, but the heterosexual Black male who is like a Huxtable is not the image that they want on television. And this is something that we're revisiting again, because if you go back and look at why John Amos left Good Times, he left Good Times because he did not like the image of the Black man being promoted by Norman Lear. And so now we're having this negative image of a Black man on reality TV that's going all around the world, which is a false narrative that the Black man, a heterosexual Black man, is somebody that you need to fear, and he's not qualified to lead his family, and he is a menace to society. This is a concerted effort by those who want to control the narrative of Black men here in America.
Okay. Okay. Does anyone else want to chime in on that?
I would certainly agree with that. I think Dr. Carter is right on point and right on cue. I think that Black men, for one of the things I will say is Dr. Carter referenced a strong Black family. Strong Black families build strong Black communities. And so the narrative is even further expanded. Nope, they don't want strong Black families, because those families then collectively build strong communities. And when you have strong Black communities, there's economic power, there's political power, there's developmental power. And those people then stop asking and start taking and building their own. And America does not want that, never has. One of the things I see as a problem with reality TV, and I have watched several of the shows, not a lot of them, but not a lot of episodes, but I have watched. One of the things that when I have watched it, I have always thought in the back of my mind, America has always taken delight in our detriment. And here we have Black men who are, they used to fight us against each other, pit us for entertainment. We always have to be entertaining to our own detriment. We never become the benefactors of those fights. We're always detrimentally harmed and hurt, killed. And so I think that perhaps networks, I don't know, I'm not on a reality show, but I think that perhaps these people are thrown a few dollars, and I think they're kind of chided or coached into acting a fool, basically. And they do it because those checks roll in. And so that is problematic, because you have on some of the shows, as we talked earlier, very educated men who are business owners. And I wonder what happens to their businesses or what happens to their practices, because who wants to go to a physician who's on TV fighting? Who wants to buy a home from a developer who's on TV fighting? Many years ago, and I'll stop here, but many years ago when I first learned about TV, there was a show called Love and Hip Hop. And I was a principal at an elementary school. Fourth grade kids told me about this guy, Stevie Stevie somebody.
Right. Yeah. He's on the
thumbnail. Well, he told me about him, and he had one of his women was pregnant and had an abortion. And here are kids who we were struggling to get to read on grade level, and they couldn't master that, but they knew everything about love and hip hop. I never forgot that. And that is actually my entree into reality TV. So I think it goes farther than the damage we do to ourselves on these shows. We are critically injuring, slowly murdering our children, because our children watch those shows as well.
Okay. I'm glad you brought that up. I wanted to ask, just piggyback off of that. So Love, or as you said, Love and Hip Hop, I forgot what it's called, but there's a whole franchise for Love and Hip Hop, and I believe executive producer or the owner of the show is a Black woman, and she got a lot of slack for that show. But you're right, a lot of the buffoonery that we see on that show has to do with the fact that they are coming on and doing whatever to present an image and for pay. 100%. Some of the most toxic behavior has come from those shows in particular, from the hip hop group. And I'm glad that you said that you had fourth graders who came in and told you everything there was to know about that show. Because my first thing was, who's watching it? Like, it can't appeal to everybody, but who is it appealing to? But for a fourth grader to come in and tell you everything about it but couldn't read, that says a lot. So how did you handle it in the classroom, if you don't mind me asking, Dr. Raphael?
Well, we immediately, and I was actually principal, but I talked to the teachers, and we kind of had a discussion. We were in a minoritized community, and so we had a heartfelt discussion among ourselves, and I was probably the only person in the building who didn't know about the show. And ultimately, I talked to the parents about it and just kind of talked. You can't legislate what happens in somebody else's house, but I kind of shared that here we're struggling with your children, trying to get your children on grade level and all their topics, all of their content areas, but they're at home sitting with you, watching Love and Hip Hop and all of these other shows. And then they come in, they know every character, they know every fight. A fourth grader should not know anything about an abortion.
Yes.
I didn't know whether to cry, whether to, use foul language. I didn't know what to do, because that was a first for me. But I think that what we did simply was just have a discussion with the parents. It was a really tight knit community. And so the parents trusted me, and they listened to me because they saw me as this old guy. And so they kind of listened. I don't know that they stopped watching. In fact, I'm sure they didn't, but they did listen. And I just kind of kept talking. We just kind of have to, sometimes you just have to talk people through things, and they will arrive at their own pace.
They will arrive at their own pace. Okay. You had just mentioned doctors fighting. You said something about doctors fighting, and there's a show called Married to Medicine. And I have to say, of all the shows, the Black men on the Married to Medicine cast probably presents the best. We don't see a lot of fighting between the men, and typically when the women are doing their part to keep the entertainment rolling, they pull back. I actually saw a show where one time a man was actually trying to engage with the women, and the other men on the show said, "No, we don't do that on the show." We don't do that on the show. Let's not do it now. They'll get over it and do what they have to do and move on. But I just wanted to point out that they actually did not fight, as far as the episodes I've seen anyway. But I do have a question, since you said something about you wondered how people's businesses do if they're on this show. And one of the things that Love and Marriage Huntsville, which is a very popular show, we know that OWN wasn't always at the top in the ratings. And this show came on and basically helped move OWN as one of the top contenders for, in competition with other networks like Bravo and whatever. And one of the things when this show came on, it was supposed to be Black professionals, all college educated, by the way, smart people with their own businesses. And literally it was sold to us as they were all millionaires. And when they came on, we had, I would say, the lead couple of the show who were, going through some marital problems, and then they ended up divorcing on the show. But the male on that show is really polarizing, like emotionally, just a drain sometimes to watch. Some of the things that he says and does is very shocking and triggering for people. First season, him and his wife going through it. We think that they're mending things. Turns out they're not. He's still, came on having an affair. They thought they got over it, continue to have an affair. And then when they were divorcing, I don't know how many months her baby was. I think it was very early, maybe 1 or 2. He has a conversation with her where he tells her he's going to sue her for full custody. Keep this up and I'm going to take full custody of the children from you. And I remember sitting at home, I had to rewind the TV a couple of times thinking, what did my ears just hear? Like, what is happening on the show? I've never heard that before, even though today, a white reality TV star and couple, they're going through some of the same things. The husband has filed for full custody and divorce of their 4 children. So one of the things I was thinking when I actually heard it is, how does this affect your business to show this type of regard to your wife? You're still married to her. That baby's like a couple of months old. Like, what happens next? And he has never corrected his behavior. Like, he can watch this show and he never self-corrects. But I'm asking you guys, just hearing that, what are your thoughts on that part? And then also, it's going to be a double question. I've never seen any of the other men on the show actually say you've gone too far to this particular man. So I want to know how you feel about that. And then also, why aren't Black men correcting Black men on reality TV? Like, does that not happen in real life? I'm just asking.
It happens in real life. Black men do correct one another quite often, whether or not you're in a fraternity or not in a fraternity, whether you have been friends for 30 years or it is an acquaintance. Mm-hmm. If you care about somebody, you're going to speak up and you're going to say something. You'll pull someone to the side. The scenario that you described where the gentleman is going through changes, I guess is the best way to describe it. It just isn't a good look.
Right.
It's just not a good look. I have not seen it, but just listening to what you're describing, it doesn't seem very healthy. It doesn't seem like it represents Black men. I mean, as Black men, we're very diverse. We come from different backgrounds, different experiences. We're the sum part of everything that we've learned and have done. But what you're sharing, it just doesn't shed a good light. It doesn't sound healthy. It doesn't sound too cool.
I think Dr. Warren was going to chime in on that as well.
Dr. Warren?
Yeah, I agree with Dr. Bacon. I think at the end of the day, I don't have any Black male friends who would not confront me if I had some behavior that what you described. I haven't seen that show either in the episode, but I know the Black men that are in my life, whether that's family or friends or even some of my coworkers, if I was acting in a way that lessened the image of the Black man, they would call me out on it. And I would hope that they would, because I don't want to be a misrepresentation of what it means to be a strong Black man, like Dr. Carter was saying in his original answer, because we already have so many people that are rooting for us to fail in our society today that we don't need to give other people the opportunity to point to us and say, see, that's what I was talking about. So in my opinion, I think there are Black men who are out there correcting and helping to mentor and coach and help each other along. But those are not the things that are typically shown on television, going back to kind of what was said earlier. So I think that it happens more often than we think. It's just not something that's celebrated as much as people going out and acting wild and crazy.
Dyana, I would say that what we're seeing now is our subculture. This is the subculture being televised and trying to mimic what is our culture. This is not our culture. But I will say this. I know this show. I watch this show. My wife watched this show. We watch it and she asked me questions like, why is he doing that? And I would say, I don't recognize that. I don't recognize it. I share a brief story, an example about how men check me. As a young man, when I met my bride, she came to visit me for homecoming. And I love my wife. I loved her from the first time I met her. And we were passionate. We saw each other. I was happy to see her. She came down and we was passionate. And then I took her out later on that evening, and one of my teammates pulled me aside and he chastised me. He was really hard on me. And he was telling me that I should not have placed all those passion marks on my wife, or my girlfriend at the time, because it was displaying a behavior or something that should have been private. And it also could possibly present that others may view her in a not respectful way. So I was checked. I was checked on that moment in a real way that has impacted my life ever since then. It's also the fact that one thing about Black men, for the most part, Black men, we love our mamas. And wives are extensions of what our mamas look like. We're not marrying our mamas, but I married a Black woman because my mom was a Black woman. Let's just be real in most cases. And I don't want my mom disrespected, and I wouldn't have that. And nor would I disrespect the mother of my children, and nor would I present her in a way that will allow any man or any human to disrespect her because they feel comfortable because I have. This person is not checked, and I'll say this because, in my opinion, and you probably want to put the alleged banner that you guys put on here when y'all do things allegedly.
My banner. Hold on.
You might want to say that at this point.
There you go.
And particularly when Dr. Carter speaks, always run that. He's your anonymous.
Okay.
He's
anonymous. She's not here today, but I'll let her know that you gave her a shout out.
I love her. She's straightforward. I would say that in some cases, you don't check a brother if you like a brother.
Oh, now you're talking. Because I was just about to say, so for those of you who don't watch the show, not only did he say it first season after she brought the baby home from the hospital, he said it the next season after that, and then he actually did it. He actually went to court and changed the custody order because when they went to court to divorce, she said, I'm going to move forward with 50-50. You're their father. I want you to see your babies. And he took her back to change the custody order and take full custody. And I have to say, it's one of I've said this on the channel before. It was the saddest and one of the most repulsive moments I think I've ever seen in my life, because I literally said, I don't know anybody. I have to think, like, I don't know anybody, man or woman, who would not have pulled him aside and said, you're going to stop this bullshit right now.
You have to have a moral fiber, a particular level of integrity and a character. At some point, where's your line of demarcation? Where do you say, hey, I can't associate with the things you're doing when you get to this point?
Yeah.
And get it in the face of a woman, yelling and screaming, threatening to put your hands on a woman. If this person is someone you know and you have not corrected that, and this person still walks into your house, spends time with you on your free time, then you're not protecting your house. And that's what my feelings are on that. So I guess that says my opinion is alleged, and whatever else that says.
It's your opinion, and yeah, all of these are your opinions, okay? And it's all alleged, but these are things that we saw on the show as a topic, and they are currently discussing this as a topic now. But it looked like, Dr. Carter, you were chomping at the bit to say something.
Well, you know, we have to realize that we just didn't get to this place overnight. This has been an evolution of the deterioration of moral values within our community. Okay. And we're now seeing the tipping point of what has been evolving for a while. You know, whether we go back to the 90s and we start seeing this paradigm change in the psychology of what hip hop looked like in our community. It went through a transformation from conscious rap to what we started seeing more of a gangster rap, and then it became what was known as materialistic rap. That I'm flossing the things that I have, even though it was a false narrative that they really didn't have these things. And so now we created a whole generation who is addicted to the lifestyle of the rich and famous, that is addicted to get rich or die trying, that's getting rich, addicted to public success and private failure, and symbolism over substance. And symbolism over substance has become the reality of young people. And what is very dangerous is that these reality shows are becoming templates for what young people think that their lives are supposed to be. Young ladies thinking that this is the way I'm supposed to be as a woman. A young man think that this is the way I'm supposed to be as a man. And so those days of looking at a Dr. Crawford, a Dr. Bacon, a Dr. Robinson, or Dr. Warren is not held in high esteem. When it used to be a time when you say, here's Dr. such and such, there was a reverence and a respect. But now there's not a reverence and respect, because reality shows have made doctors a side thing, and to be this influencer a main thing. And so we're getting young men now saying that this is the way that we handle young ladies. They don't even call them women anymore. They just say they're females. You know, look at the female. Females. Devaluing the Black woman, devaluing women in our community, not holding them to a high esteem. And so this is a very dangerous space we're in right now, is that we're going to do whatever it takes to become an influencer, to have money. But, you know, I was sharing with someone the other day that society always hits a hard reset. And what's going to be left behind is the aftermath of these young people who have become so much symbolism and no substance that when they now need to be substance, they don't have anything to rely on. And we're going to have to inherit the aftermath of this foolishness. But we need to go after the people who are financing this foolishness and get to the root on what is the motive behind pushing this narrative on the Black community.
That was a conversation that we were having before we came online. Wondering is what specifically is in the contracts that they sign when they come on board for the different reality TV shows, because, you know, everybody's reality is different. But I would also say that in the midst of that, there can't be that much drama every single day.
Right.
And
very boring life.
Off themselves.
Yeah, I live a very boring life. But just some of the things that you were saying, Dr. Carter, about the men just and rap culture and all of this stuff. And now we just have this group of people who don't want to get it for in other ways. They just want to have that key phrase or that rap song or whatever. But I'm going to say, for the long, when I was growing up, Black women, Black girls were told that we were going to be pregnant. You know, you'll never graduate school. You're going to be pregnant. You never go to college. You're going to be a video hoe. What else? Then the gold digger term came out, and it was just anything you can think of, we wore on our shoulders. Now, Black women lead in degrees for our demographic. 60%, I think, bachelors, and I think it was like 70% in either medical degrees or doctorates, and I forgot the other, but it was high, like 80% masters. We're leading in small business, opening our own small business, and then we also lead in, I think, and I heard this, military service, like we're the fastest growing group in military service. Why are Black men so behind? Does anyone want to talk about that? Why aren't we on the same wave? Why aren't we catching up at the same time?
I would say this, and I'm going to piggyback again off Dr. Carter. I think the men on these shows are problematic, but they aren't our major problem.
Okay.
I think they feed into it. And I think it has to do with what Dr. Carter said. We need to go after the people who set them up with the contracts that Dr. Bacon referenced. That's where our problem is. You know, we're not a monolithic group. We're not all the same, but that's how America sees us and shows us. And so we have to go after those people who are sitting in the boardrooms, who are sitting at the producer's table, who are saying, we will have this and we will have this show. We're going to give you whatever we're going to give you, and you're going to act a fool. And if you really look at some of these shows, they bring their family members on there. They bring their mothers on there, and the mothers act a fool many times. Like everybody acts a clown on these shows. And you look and you keep hoping that some man is going to stand up and be the man. And I do agree that at least on the Merit to Medicine, that show, they do the better job of being civil, being strong men. They can be catty as well, but I think that they do better. You know, with Love and Marriage,
more redeeming qualities. It's one of the more redeeming qualities to see the men say, even to the wives, "You've gone too far."
Absolutely.
I appreciate that.
I think, Diana, when we first started looking at reality TV, I think we go back as far as Real World. I may have been the second season of Real World. I'm not sure, when Tammy Romaine was on the show, and the treatment she received from that brother on the show, yanking her out of the room when she was half dressed and all those things, that played up well for its viewership. And I think it has been a slippery slope and a downhill since then. One of my favorite reality shows is RHOA. I love Real Housewives of Atlanta. And when it initially came on, the men were kind of in the background. And it was value in seeing that and seeing them support the women, letting the women achieve and do things that we know that women can do. But at some point, it became let's rev this up in a way that we can get viewership. But I think it's going beyond that. It was just simply that drama sells, and the more drama you create. And I think it's difficult when I think the contract is an issue, but I want to know what's the vetting process. What does the interview process look like? What if a family presents themselves on one of these shows and the husband works, you know, and he's dedicated to the family and he's committed to his community, do they get a second look? Or if the family comes in and says, well, we got some marital issues going on. My mother-in-law really doesn't give a damn about me. Is this what they want? Is this the representation they want? Because I would say that is not the full representation of Black families. And lastly, I think that we may see the trajectory of Black women starting businesses, going on, getting further in school, primarily because I think Black men have been made to believe, assumed to believe, that there are other avenues to wealth and prosperity beyond just getting behind the books. So you can become an athlete, a rapper, design clothes. I think there's been those avenues which are smaller and hard to navigate than some of the other avenues here. But I think what you see now, you have 5 African American men. We are different ages and different backgrounds, and we all have doctors. And I tend to associate with like-minded people who hold me accountable. And I tend to introduce those type of people into my spirit, my world. But I do think that there are people who representation matters. All you see is what you see. All you believe is what you see. And I think that's what we are in some cases.
Good. Listen, I have to say, I say that every day. Representation matters. If we don't see it, we won't be it.
Don't believe it.
That's right. That's right. A. Jade Stone had said that the Black men we're talking about is being raised by the same Black women. So, and I think that's a good point. I just don't understand. You were explaining that you just think that they're attracted to a different avenue of success than Black women are at the moment. That's how I understood it. Correct?
Well, to an extent, I stand on the shoulders of Black women. I wouldn't be where I am if it wasn't for Black women. I was raised by my mom and my grandmother. I had an abusive stepfather who was verbally and physically abusive, but it was my mother and my grandmother who guided me, and told me what they expected of me as a man. They were not men, but they knew exactly what they wanted their son and grandson to be. And I learned from that, and I took that, and I don't want to embarrass them or anyone who looks like them. And I try not to do that. But I think in some cases that without the representation of strong Black male figures in situations where we should be represented, you leave young Black men to try to figure it out for themselves. And in some cases, they don't need to figure it out for themselves. They need to be able to talk to someone to help them figure it out. And when you don't have that representation on the show, I'll say this because I don't want to talk too much. I was disappointed in one of the scenes in Love and Marriage Huntsville. And there was a scene where the guys went to hit the baseball. And I felt that since each one of those young men, each one of those guys had sons, it would have been nice had those sons have been there, even if they had gone off later to talk, man talk. It would have been nice had those sons have been there to see these men bonding as Black men and as fathers, so they can know how to mimic that as they get older. And I felt that was an opportunity lost.
Can I add one thing? I was going to say, I think some of it goes even back to what Dr. Carter was saying about the music and stuff. I think oftentimes we listen to music that is not uplifting and encouraging for our young Black men. And when you see these images on TV of maybe rappers out here with gold chains or gold teeth, and they have all these women on their shoulder and all these things, and you have these young boys looking at it thinking that is success, then they're not aspiring to do better things like starting their own business or going to school and getting advanced degrees or things like that. And I think oftentimes because Black men are not always as present in the family structure, they don't have someone healthy to come alongside them and say, hey, young man, you need to come back this way. But what they typically get is they will get the gangbanger or the drug dealer in the neighborhood to come alongside them and give them a false sense of family. And I think sometimes it goes back even to those things like the music and the things like that we're listening to. And sometimes we have to, even as adults and as Black men in our communities, we have to stand strong. And even if they're not our kids, we have to step in and try to be that mentor, that big brother or that father figure. Because if we don't, we are allowing our future to kind of be led down a path that they don't even know they're being led down. So I think it can kind of speak to even going back to that, what they're seeing all the time in the music.
What they're seeing all the time.
I would also quickly chime in. I think sometimes our young folks feel that reality TV is reality, when in fact it is not.
Okay. I'm glad you're saying that.
Yeah, because, what they're seeing is definitely not the complete picture of real life. I mean, certainly you have disagreements and all that comes with it, but what's being portrayed, no, that's not reality. And if that is someone's reality, God bless them, because there comes a lot with that. And some of the different reality shows with Black men, you either see them showing up angry confused, broken, all over the place. You know, sometimes you don't really see them crystal clear in terms of knowing what exactly they want. They think they know what they want, but you know, sometimes they're just all over the place, and it just kind of is like, whoa.
I agree with you 100%. One of the things that Dr. Robinson was saying is that, well, I think a lot of you were also saying is that, like, Married to Medicine is one of the shows that got it right. In the beginning, Real Housewives of Atlanta also, you know, there was a group of Black professional men who was very careful about the image they were portraying on television. With Love and Marriage Huntsville, we have some young men that's supposed to be all professional, but they did bring on one. I forgot to actually say his name, and that was Lewis. I forgot his last name. Tiffany and Lewis.
Whitlow.
Whitlow. Thank you. Tiffany and Lewis Whitlow. I remember there was a scene where the men were, in particular, one of the men was having a back and forth with the ladies. And he literally in that moment said, "This stops with me." He told all the guys, "Let's go one way," and then had a whole conversation with them where he said, "I don't do this. I'm not going to watch you argue with men, or well, excuse me, argue with the women, and you're not going to do this in front of me." That was the first and the last time we had saw him do it. Now I don't know what he's going to offer this season, because there is a scene coming up where I guess one of the men say something foul to his wife, his pregnant wife, and he has to address that. But I just wanted to call out Lewis in this particular show and say that we need more of him if they choose to leave these characters to do whatever they want. And I told you guys that I was not going to keep you long, so I got 2 more questions and then we're going to wrap it up. Okay. Did anyone want to add on to anything that we talked about in regards to the topic?
Yes, you know what I think what we're going to have to do is, as the negative narrative is out there, we're going to have to start putting out the positive narrative. And we're going to have to use that bait that they're using to attract our young people, and that is to have money, homes, good cars, and all of those things. But we have to show them that you can get it outside of entertainment. You can get it outside of being negative. There's 2 people that I want to bring up real quick that are 2 of the richest Black men in America. They're not entertainers. They're not football players. They are not rappers. One of them is Robert Smith. Robert Smith paid all of the debt of the men in 2019 at Morehouse College. He's worth $6.7 billion, right? He's in finance. The other one is David Stewart, worth $5.8 billion into IT. These are the images that we got to start putting before young men again as heroes that they need to duplicate, you know, to let them know that you don't have to be this other negative narrative, that you can still have the things that you want and follow examples like that. And I've met Robert Smith, and I've met other men like here in the great city of Atlanta who are worth over $100 million, who are now saying we got to counter this negative narrative by letting these young men know that we made it up to the pinnacle of wealth in this country, not being buffoons, not being stepping fetches, not being negative narrative, but we made it because we took an ideal and we brought it to the public, and where are the images that you should be emulating. And that's what we're going to have to start doing, is pointing our young people to these individuals opposed to these narratives that we're seeing on reality television.
Okay.
You know, Dr. Carter, Uhuru once said, and it's been attributed to other people, Fields and other people, it's not what they call us, but what we answer to that matters. And I agree with you that we need, first of all, Black men, real Black men, build Black men. And you can't build Black men without building Black boys. And a byproduct of that is we build our women and our girls. And so I do believe that we do need to put those images of Smith and those Stewart, you know, those kinds of people. They need to see that. They need to see the successful radiologist. They need to see a successful small business owner. They need to see that they don't have to rap. They don't have to dodge bullets. They don't have to go have gold teeth. They don't have to have 5 babies by 5 different women. Those are the images they need to see. And I'll just switch real quickly. Going back to Huntsville, You remember a few episodes ago, Maurice finished law school. Now, we didn't know he was in law school till the same season he graduated, but that was a missed opportunity because in spite of all the stuff, at least a few episodes I've seen, he kind of keeps his head straight. And I thought, here's a Black man who has working small business owner, goes to law school, finishes, has a wife who is a nurse, sticks by his wife who is dealing with a life-threatening illness. And this kind of like, it happened, boom. Now, and had his biological son with him and his wife and their son. But
you're right. That's a good question. That's a good way to put it, because I was just going to say, is there a way for these men that are currently on television who is, you know, like a Martell or a Marceau? I want to say that Maurice right now seems like he is in his redemption arc, just from what you said, because we saw him, you know, trying to keep, you know, the brother. You might be a little too, you know, out there saying that you want your wife to be at home pregnant, barefoot type of thing. But after he had gone through some things with his wife and her cancer journey, he seems to be on a redemption journey right now in how he handles himself as a man on the show. Do you think that there is any room for the other men? And if so, what do you think that needs to happen?
Dyana, if I can, one thing about Maurice.
Yes.
I do believe in transparency, and that's why I wanted to have this panel. My wife, about a year and a half ago, battled breast cancer.
Okay.
And she had to go through 30 radiation treatments, and it was grueling treatments for her. And I think what helped her get through that was the fact that I was there. I drove her to every session. I was there. I helped bandage her up so she could go to work when she had to have the reconstructive surgery. I had to help her with the drainage. I may be telling a little bit much, but I think she would be fine with me sharing her victory. And so what Maurice did that, and that's not atypical of Black men. Most Black men who have wives going through this is what we do. And it is literally impossible for some networks, and I'm disappointed in networks who would not do it, showing the journey and what he went through and how he could have helped and how he was helping his wife would have been a transformation. And I think it would have been something that would have sparked a very different construction and conversation. But to continue with that concept and what he did was belittled a couple of days ago in an interview between his brother and Carlos, when they called him a millimeter because he was showing passion and compassion for his wife. And that ticked me off, because any man who loves his wife is going to do what Maurice was doing, and to be criticized and to be confused, called something other than a good father and a good husband in that moment, I think was despicable. And it speaks to the problem we have in here. Is there a role for redemption? The first role of redemption is to ask for forgiveness from our Lord and Savior. He needs to apologize to his wife for everything he said publicly. And then he needs to lead by example. And the next time somebody speaks out of turn to his wife, that's who he needs to step to, not his mother-in-law.
Okay. You're referring to Martell.
If his shoe fits.
Okay. So anybody else, what do you believe would be a good way to redeem the men who are, or even the show? How do you redeem a show that is constantly putting on Black men who are in the worst spaces emotionally and mentally about how they think of themselves, other Black men, and especially women? And these are the show, like I said, Black women are the majority of people watching these shows. So
I believe that it's all about the intention. If your intention is for evil, the evil will prevail. If your intention is for good, then the good will shine through. digging a little bit deeper, when we're talking about redemption, redemption starts with yourself. You have to look at yourself first and know where you've made your mistakes and own your mistakes and be willing to change your behavior. The issue is whether or not these gentlemen really want to change who they show up as and who they really are. You know, that goes back to a conversation I was having last night. That's about your mindset. It's like, where's your mind at? How are you thinking? What is your plan? Do you have a plan, or are you reactive? You know, are you one that is easily angered, or cool heads prevail? So a lot of that goes back to how you view yourself and, you know, the work that you're doing on yourself so that you show up as your best self.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
I think these shows alone will never do it. It is intentional. It is their narrative, and that's the image they want to project. I think the men are drunk with celebrity status. They like the attention and whatever little check they get. You know, they, in certain communities, certain situations, they are viewed like rock stars. So they like that. And I think that if change will come, those men have to stand up and say, I will not be a buffoon. I will not betray myself. I will not betray my family. I will not betray my people. They'll have to do it, but they're going to look at the money and the celebrity status that they have. But the real thing is, I think we have to, once again, rely on Black women who make up the largest portion of the viewership. We need Black women to say, no, this is not the way our men are. And this is not how we want them viewed. Because a lot of women who watch these shows, their husbands or their significant others don't behave like the men on those shows. They don't.
No, I agree. I said the same thing. They don't. I don't know men who act like this on the show. So, but they want us to believe that it's TV. However, these men are true to themselves season after season after season. So this is who they are. This is who they are. Okay. Did anyone else want to add to that, Dr. Carter?
Well, you know, television is all about sensationalism. It's all about what will get the ratings. And we have to set up a clean glass next to a dirty glass. We have TV executives like Byron Allen, who now are in a position with media to create shows that are counter to these shows. You know, there might need to be a show called That's Not My Man. You know, that's not how my man act. You know, there needs to be a show that shows a different narrative that people can weigh a clean glass next to a dirty glass. We need to look at Bounce TV and say to Bounce TV, create a reality show that shows the real issues that Black men are dealing with so that there can be something else that young people can look at. I leave with this right here. We all learn in science that an object will remain at rest unless acted upon by an external force. There needs to be external forces going to these television shows and saying to the advertisers of these shows, if you support these shows that are painting us in a negative image, we're not going to support you. And we need to get the community riled up just like we do when someone takes the life of a young Black man in the community and we march the streets. Well, we need to march the streets about these negative narratives from every place of worship, every organization, every entity out there need to say enough is enough. And until these external forces act upon these shows, they're going to continue to do this because no one is calling them to the carpet. And I think it's time to say, I am a man movement. Am I a man? This is what we are. This is who we are, and we're not going to take it anymore. So if you all see me cutting up, switching 4 lanes up here in Atlanta, it's because I done kicked it off. I am a man movement. We're going to stop this madness one way or another.
That's why I take the back streets. Okay.
We got to heat the streets of. I'll start off with the ATL. And in whatever cities y'all at, y'all get it started off there. I get it kicked off in Atlanta.
Okay. So you're saying that men need to protest their images on the show.
Exactly. 100 Black men there. All these other organizations. My Sweet Fraternity, Alpha Phi Alpha, every other fraternity. We got to get out there and say enough. What is that? I'm sorry. Enough is enough. We're going to have to tell them enough is enough. The Divine Nine, all of us going to have to come together and say, you know what? Enough is enough.
Enough is enough. Okay.
Hey, Diana, the only thing I'll add, I'll be really quick. I would just say it would come down to two things for me. One, the Black men in these shows have to be reminded that they are representing the Black men in our country. And then the second thing would be realizing that all money is not good money. And oftentimes we think about that, and then when somebody's like maybe selling drugs or doing something out there that they shouldn't. But you have to also realize when we're putting out this negative narrative on these shows, yeah, we're getting paid for that kind of stuff, but that is not good money, because look at what you're doing to our future and the images that you're painting for other people. So my challenge would be, as you mentioned a couple of times tonight, Diana, for the women. If women are looking at these shows and they're supporting these shows, I would challenge the women to stop looking at them. You know, like if they're not getting the ratings, they're not going to be, you know, continuing to be on air. And I would put that challenge out for all of the women that are looking at these shows and supporting these shows and telling their friends about these shows to kind of stand up and say, hey, I'm going to stop looking at it because this doesn't represent the men that I know in my life, my dad, my brother, my kids. It doesn't represent them. So I would just put that challenge out to kind of close it out for me.
Okay. Anyone else? Okay. I appreciate you gentlemen for joining us tonight. We talked about a lot of different things, so hopefully some people can take something away from this. And you guys gave great comments and opinions, so I appreciate all of it. And the chat seemed to really like you guys too. There was one person I just wanted to say that said that some of the things that show up on the show does represent their experiences, not everyone's, but some of the things that do show up in the show does represent their experiences. And so I just wanted to say that part. But I do agree that men have to step up and also say these images are not a good reflection of us. And also that we need more men on the show when men do, I mean, because we're human. If you have an emotional or some sort of crazy response, someone needs to check that and offer balance to the show. We need balance. Not every single man on the show can think the same way, the same craziness, come after the women in the same crazy way, bring other people from their family onto the show to say and do these things. We have to have some balance. And so that's how I would like to end it. Again, I just appreciate every single one of y'all for showing up for us tonight, and maybe we can do it again someday. Okay? All right. Thanks, guys.